Alright, whenever these two teams match up, I just expect a dogfight, and this one did not disappoint at all. I thought both teams had the right defensive game plans, and the Thunder's was to obviously force the rock out of Ant's hands, either by outright selling or just shading all his angles, so he was a passer more times than not. If anything, he played it as well as he could have, and they were getting some easy buckets because of the Thunder's breakdowns or slow rotations, especially whenever Zay was on the court. He was just slow to everything, and the Thunder couldn't really get stops until Jalen Williams subbed in, because he was way quicker on those low rotations, so that's when they started to take control of the game early in the second. Between him, their Reds, and their ball pressure, the Wolves were getting stagnant offensively, because a lot of it was being reduced to ones, so all those stops were generating pace for the Thunder to get runouts. If it weren't for those or the whistles, the Thunder probably wouldn't have been able to break the game open, because the Wolves were stagnating them just as much in the half court, and it all stemmed from their small ball lineup. Even though they're missing their bigs, that's actually what helped them on that end, because by assigning Jaden onto Zay and reading everything, it neutralized the Thunder's two-man game for Shea or Dub, so they were playing just as many ones. The one thing they were consistently exploiting was a dunker, because most teams just aren't used to defending a guard there, so it basically goes unnoticed behind the defense, and there were probably 4 to 5 easy drop-offs throughout. But there were only so many of those, and even though they were still up 20 to 25 in the third, this quarter was when the game really started to flip, because their offense started catching up to them. Shea basically had to create everything the entire quarter, and it even got to a point where they had to take Zay out for the rest of the night, because he had slow feet, and they couldn't use him as a screener, so they had to in order to match the Wolves' small ball. It just turned into Shea versus Ant creating on both sides, but the big differences were the Thunder had to settle from deep, and the Wolves started making their shots, or more importantly, started getting the benefit of the whistle. It was obvious they got a bit of confidence, and carried that over into the fourth to pull off one of the most ridiculous comebacks I've ever seen, because I don't think the Thunder got complacent, so it was more about their aggression. The Thunder had the same issues from the third, but this quarter, the Wolves were more willing to sell on Shea, and with nothing easy inside, they just continued slowly bleeding out from deep until it was too late. They could not solve the Wolves' defense at all, so it was no surprise to see him get completely shut out in the last 4 minutes. And in turn, all those stops just generated constant pace for the Wolves to get downhill non-stop. It started with their bench early in the quarter, and it continued throughout, so if it wasn't a finish or a whistle, it was an and one. It was a gradual compounding effect to slowly shift the momentum in their favor, and by the time OT started, it was inevitable for them to win, because it's hard for any team to recover from that type of meltdown the Thunder had. It still came down to some heroics at the end, but for the Wolves to put on this defensive showing in OKC down 25, it's by far their most impressive win of the year, and sometimes it's better to get the whistles late than early. Just watch the tape.